Mark Zuckerberg made some comments a few months ago, and essentially what he was saying was by 2026, we are going to have an engine within Meta that will almost be a fully AI agency within Meta. And so, making paid social more accessible to small businesses that maybe don't have the resources for a agency or don't have an in-house team, I can see the benefit of that. For brands, I think this can be really consequential because...
Hey everyone. Welcome to What's the Point? Nate, Raul. Today, really excited, have a very special guest who you guys have yet to hear from. You've probably seen him floating around somewhere in our social content, or if you've been up to the office, you've probably seen him walking around. He's hard to miss. He's a tall guy. Ryan Mainville, our senior social manager, is here. And he's going to talk today about what it really takes for brands to win on social in this day and age. Just to give you a little bit of background about Ryan, he approaches social media as more than just posts and metrics. It's a powerful channel for authentic storytelling and creating real connections with audiences. We talk about that quite a bit. Yeah. Before joining Point, Ryan honed his skills as part of the New York Knicks social squad. Shout out Jalen Brunson.
That's right.
What's up, man? And now he brings the same creativity, strategy, and energy to helping brands stand out in an increasingly crowded digital landscape, more crowded than ever. Fueled by passion and plenty of coffee, as most of us are. Ryan shares his perspective on how brands can shift away from chasing quick wins and instead invest in strategies that create lasting impact through storytelling. Ryan, what's up, man? Welcome.
Thanks, man. That was a great introduction. I feel honored.
That's that guy. I always tell people, it's like, he's the writer. I just read this stuff, man.
Dude,
yeah, no, it's great to have you, dude.
Yeah,
finally.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. So, first question, man. How does authentic brand storytelling and customer-centric content drive success, particularly in organic social, an area of social that a lot of people have said is dying kind of a slow death if it's not dead already? I don't think it's dead already, but we're interested to hear your insights around how you feel about this.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned my time with the Knicks in the intro. I had a boss there. That was actually my first job in social. My boss there asked me a question on my first week. And he said, do you want people to identify your brand or identify with your brand? Mm-hmm. And that was a really pivotal moment, even being kind of green and new in the space as to like, how am I going to approach this? What is kind of my edge, my philosophy, my strategy going to be? And that's where I really started to just become married to this idea of authentic brand storytelling and customer-centric content. Because organic social, in a way, it is dying. Mm-hmm. It is. There's just so much noise out in the digital landscape that if you are not building connection, you're not going to stand out. Yeah. And you're going to be an afterthought. But I think where brands have a really good opportunity to gain traction and do something of value on social is by making their audience the hero, mm-hmm. providing value, being educational. And that's where I think, when you marry that authentic brand storytelling with content that's centered around making your audience feel heard and seen, that's where organic social really starts to spin the wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great, man. I think that's, you said the magic word, authenticity, right? Like, I think even in an age where, and I think what we're starting to see is, I'm a big, Raul and I talk about this a lot. I'm a big YouTube guy. Mm-hmm. Watching content, trying to constantly curate and create my own channel content. And I think we're getting away from this trying to, and it's been moving this way for a while, trying to appeal to everyone. Yeah. It's like Raul and I often talk about, we talked about this when Alyssa was here. Would you rather have 30,000 followers or 300 engaged people?
Yeah.
Because 300 people can't fit in this room. It's a lot more people than you think. Now, when you look at celeb numbers and things like that, they're huge, right? I mean, have you ever you go to follow somebody, but then you don't really ever engage with their content.
Oh,
you just kind of, and sometimes you may not even see it based on the way that the algorithm is curating your feed. But it's getting to this point now where we're having to work to create our audiences, right? Or a brand's audience, as opposed to trying to cater to everyone. It's even deeper than just personalization or segmentation. It's like really trying to cater to those people that really want to engage with your brand, I think is where the rubber meets the road, at least. And the things we've talked about as well. It's about trying to find ways to tell emotionally resonant stories that hit home with the people that are engaging with you every day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I would rather have a brand with 100 ambassadors than 10,000 followers.
Yeah, same.
Because those ambassadors are conversions. It's word of mouth marketing for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really where the secret sauce lies, is being able to kind of find your niche and then just continually provide value in that space.
So I wonder if people feel it's dead also, because I think a lot of people have caught on to like organic social, and I think that a lot of times you'll see like these smaller like UGC content, and it feels really authentic. But you're like, are they getting paid, or are they like, I can't tell anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people getting paid for this stuff too. So it is.
I think that's the thing too. It goes back to what we talked about, where people want to, and that's one of the other challenges we have is nowadays, I think people want to connect with people. They don't necessarily want to connect with a monolith.
Yeah.
And that's why you see more brands reaching out to influencers and people faces that can help drive their brand. Like we talked all the time about Tim Cook posting Apple announcements from his personal accounts because of the sheer numbers that he has and people that want to know what he has to say and find out what's going on in his brain, but also what's going on with the company and where they're headed. So finding ways to connect with people in a real, authentic, transparent way, because they can smell advertising from a mile away. And that's really, we're moving in from an era of gatekeeping into true, authentic human connection, which is really interesting because social, it's funny, we always say like, we've never been more disconnected and connected at the same time. But I think we're getting back to where people, they're craving that community and the connection, man. So people are creating we have these online communities. Like we always talk a lot about, Brian, you and I are music guys, trying to just find those little niche communities, whether it's on Reddit or social, across channels, and find those people that are interested in the same things you are, that support the same things you do and are interested in the same things you do. And it's finding out how to curate and create those communities. And I think that's what brands have to focus on too. So should brands really be chasing virality, like trying to go viral and following trends, or is connection really the ultimate goal? I think we know the answer to this question, but we want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do too.
I think the easiest way I would answer it is chasing virality is not a strategy.
Right.
And there's really no predictability in that. There's no recipe for success. I mean, it's in the definition and etymology of the word, right? Like virality spreads and it's unpredictable and it's fast paced and it's exponential. But if I can't predict that, then it's not a strategy. Yeah. And I think, whether you're in-house working on a marketing team or you're doing social at an agency similar to me, I think if you're honest with yourself, this can be a struggle. Like having those big, flashy green numbers are really exciting to show a client or show an exec and say, hey, this is the results I generated. Like, isn't this so great? But if that's not leading to relationships and connection, the long-term value is really limited. And I think a lot of brands will try to make virality their strategy, and that can come with a lot of unintended consequences. A couple of months back, obviously, the Coldplay astronomer thing was all over the internet. And of course, whenever something like that starts to dominate the conversation, brands are going to join in. It's just kind of part of the way that this landscape has shifted. But one of the brands that joined in was the Stroke Association, a nonprofit that works with stroke victims and raises awareness and funds for victims that have had a stroke. And they posted something, and it just didn't land.
Yeah.
And it was borderline offensive. And the company had to issue a public apology and a press release and had to, say, hey, we're doing these ongoing efforts to make sure this doesn't happen again. That's an unintended consequence of trying to go viral and joining a conversation when you don't need to. I think there is tremendous value in recognizing where it makes sense to join a conversation and where it makes sense to stay on the sidelines.
I think that's a good principle for life. Yeah. It's like, if I say this to my wife, I'm probably going to get this kind of return. I'm going to just sit over here quietly, which is my answer for things more than 90% of the time.
Well, there was a lot of other content that went viral at that time as well.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot like, I think some of it, I don't even know what's true and what's not true anymore because there were so many, oh, this person, like they wiped their LinkedIn, these two helped each other out, whatever, they knew each other, all these things. And a lot of it ended up being not true. Supposedly the CEO put out like an apology letter. That wasn't true. But it did make me think like a lot of these, there were probably brands that were trying to get in on this, but a lot of the information ended up not being true. Like, what did they truly get out of that? So yes, they went viral. Yes, they contributed to that story.
Yeah.
But what did they really get out of getting all of these views and giving information that just wasn't true, but just to kind of jump on that bandwagon? Like, that was kind of my question, was just, well, it's not really like a question to you. It was just kind of like, but unless you have like something to say about that, I always just thought that was so weird. Like, what do they get out of this?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the question that when you make virality the goal, you probably don't ask yourself enough.
Yeah.
And I think like if you, like that example I just gave, like, do you think that would be in the Stroke Association's tone and voice for their brand
Right.
No.
to jump on a meme about a very public affair? Like, no, but I mean, even earlier this week, like KFC launched or announced that they were bringing back their potato wedges. KFC is a great follow on social. They have a very tongue-in-cheek
They're
tone.
fun. Yeah.
They're relatable.
Yeah.
They're catchy. They're young. I mean, you and I have done product launches ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. Huge investment
Very
of
much so.
time and money and creative and manpower. And KFC, for this announcement, posted a picture of a transparent potato wedge on a white background, and the caption was, "Here, damn." And that post has 70 million views,
Yeah.
15,000 comments, 51,000 reposts, 500,000 likes, and 23,000 bookmarks.
Yeah.
And so I think it really does come down to, if we want big numbers, can we do it in a way that's going to relate to the brand that we've built and the tone of voice that we've been speaking at?
Yeah. I think the Stroke Association would have been better off just saying, hey, we know everybody's talking about this, but here's something you may want to pay attention to,
Yeah.
right? I think there's a way to piggyback off the conversation without inserting yourself in a way that completely alienates your brand and your audience, because people look at that and go, what?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nothing you've ever done prior to this has been. I think sometimes it's easy for people to get caught up in the following of trends if they see something hit, and they lose sight of their brand entirely. I've seen it happen. Wendy's kind of the same thing. It's very tongue in cheek, but that's the norm for them. And it would make sense for them to respond to something like that. If it had something to do with some initiative they had or
Right.
something. A lot of times brands will tie it back to something they've got going on. But what could the Stroke Association have had going on that would have made any sense to try to tie into something like that? It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. And that was probably a call that maybe wasn't monitored as closely as it should have been, and cost them, and probably cost them some followers and engaged folks
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Let's dive into how things are expanding into, into the C-suite, and kind of where guys like Zuck are headed in his attempt to fully automate things at Meta, not for the sake of, being able to, have more machine learning and thinking and cut people loose, but just to create efficiency more so. And also, I think I can't really be mad at it, because I think he's trying to push the envelope.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to be the person to push the envelope to get us there. You know what I mean? I think we all have our thoughts around AI and what it's good for and what it can be used for and what it should be used for, some of the morality behind it or the immorality behind it. But how do you think that his plan for fully AI-powered paid social means or what does that mean for Facebook and its advertisers?
Yeah. So for anyone who's not aware, Mark Zuckerberg made some comments a few months ago, and essentially what he was saying was, by 2026, we are going to have an engine within Meta that will almost be a fully AI agency within Meta. So you come into our paid social suite, you say, this is my brand, this is who I want to target, this is how much budget I have, this is what I'd like the creative to look like, and that LLM will process all of that. It will develop the creative for you, it will set up the audience for you, it will set up the campaign for you, it will give you recommended conversion objections, fully AI. And I agree with you. From his perspective, this makes a lot of sense because it's going to make Meta a lot of money.
There's a caveat.
Yeah.
But we'll get around to it.
This is how social platforms make 98% of their revenue is through paid social.
Yeah.
And so, making paid social more accessible to small businesses that maybe don't have the resources for a agency or don't have an in-house team, I can see the benefit of that. But I do think that this could be really, really consequential.
Yeah.
I'll take that from two angles. For brands, I think this can be really consequential because building a brand is such hard work. It takes so much effort, so much repetition, so much dedication to the craft that you're trying to bring to life, but you can lose it in a second. And so giving the full creative process away to a robot that has no emotional connection with your brand, has no understanding of what your audience will resonate with, that is a gamble.
Yeah.
It's a gamble that I personally would not be willing to take. And I think it can also be really consequential to users of the platform. We are already so inundated with ads and sponsorships and sales pitches. It's never ending. That if I'm scrolling Meta and all I'm seeing is a bunch of AI slop that's by brands and it's trying to sell me something, I'm going to burn out of that platform. I'm going to have fatigue from it and I'm going to move away from it. Yeah. And so I think, is there probably a happy middle somewhere in the future where, hey, this AI engine can help me be more efficient in my paid campaign setup? Yeah, I do think so. But this idea of, hey, just plug in all your inputs and then we'll take care of the rest, that's a disconnect from what I think users are really looking for.
And I would expect it from a guy like that.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to caveat because you touched on something a minute ago. And Guillermo del Toro was at a panel recently, I think it was Comic-Con here recently, where he said pushing a button on an app or with a server is never going to replace human emotion and human authenticity and human connection. Probably not in our lifetime, at least. And he's one of those people that's really railing against it. And as a creative, I have to take that route as well. I think that you need people to push innovation forward. Okay. Yeah. Without Steve Jobs, we wouldn't have these great things that we're looking at right now, or a lot of the stuff that we're filming this with. Or not just Steve Jobs, but other people obviously who have innovated in those spaces. But when you try to strip the human component out of something that needs it to be able to make true authentic connection, you're going to wind up with, like you said, a bunch of stuff. And you already kind of see it. Like everything kind of looks the same. There's nothing new under the sun. Everybody's done everything. People are using templates for stuff that humans are creating.
Yeah.
But it's already becoming too much. And if you think that you're going to be able to go in and feed some data into a machine and have it spit out something that a human who feels, who has thoughts and emotions and intuition and knows how to connect with other humans innately, you're cruising for bruising. That's going to be bad news.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I do think that somewhere along those lines, there's probably a happy medium. Hopefully somebody gets in front of him and starts to talk about that. But sometimes guys like him who seem to have a very clear vision for what they want the future to look like, especially somebody who is sort of not dissociated, but maybe in some respects a little bit different.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's on brand for him. It has been, if you know his story from the get-go, that's on brand for him. So I think that if you strip away the human element, it's gonna have negative consequences.
Yeah, and I think a warning I would give to even marketers that are thinking about this and they're excited by it, because I do think there is, again, a way that this can be used for good and positivity. A warning I would have is if you learn how to plug in all the inputs into this LLM as best you can and really tailor the components to where you've trained this AI model to give you exactly what you're looking for. What happens when you have an audience segment on TikTok or on LinkedIn or on Discord? okay, well, now you're only, able to really showcase your capabilities on one platform because that's all you've known.
Yeah.
And so I think there is nothing that replaces the value of just trying things, getting your hands dirty and really learning the platforms. And so I think while AI can be a tremendous tool, it is for me, being fully dependent on it with no human input is like walking across a string in the Grand Canyon, and you're taking a big risk.
Yeah, we're not there yet. So I guess the curveball here would be, well, it's not really a curveball, but how does that look for agencies as they move into the future and having to pivot, knowing that these things are going to happen? I think to me, it's investing more in the strategic consultancy angle, because I think we're already to a place where a lot of people are taking, we've seen it. A lot of companies, brands they're building their internal teams. They're bringing agencies in-house. They're getting people from agencies, people that can facilitate, but then also they're getting the executional piece from those sides as well. Or they're just farming it out to freelancers. Instead of having a one-stop shop where they can go to get all their answers, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. And you have all this fragmentation in the way that they're approaching their strategy, their execution, how they choose to go about it. They're trying to find ways to cut costs, especially in an uncertain economy. People are trying to tighten the purse strings wherever they can.
Yeah.
And we've felt it. It's been it's hard to, when you start to try to get in front of somebody with a value prop, to say, hey, you may be able to look at things tactically. And not everybody's this way, but you may be able to look at things tactically, but you still need the rails to ride on, because if you don't have a strategy for how you're going to approach this, you're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks. Talk a little bit, just if you can. I know it's kind of a sub question. How something like what Zuck is talking about feeds into how agencies pivot from here.
Yeah, it's a huge question. And I think the solution is knowing your difference as a shop and owning it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great shops out there.
Yeah.
We're not the only one that I think does great work. Are you a creative shop? Mm-hmm. Are you a PR shop? Are you a social shop? Are you a fully integrated marketing agency like we are? Mm-hmm. Whatever that difference is, own it and then use it.
Yeah.
So like, just speaking from Point's perspective, like my rebuttal, if I had a prospect come in and say, hey, why should I, be entrusting my paid social to you when I can just give it to the engine and the engine can do it with just hard costs? Yeah. Doesn't need any man hours. I would ask, does the engine know what you're doing with your PR? Does the engine know what you're doing with your digital marketing? Yeah. Does the engine know your tone and voice and legacy? Does it know your brand guidelines? Mm-hmm. The answer to all of those questions is probably going to be no.
Yeah.
And if it's yes, it's going to take a lot of training to get there that, frankly, a lot of people aren't going to be able to train an LLM on.
Yeah.
And so I think it really does come down to what makes your shop unique. Mm-hmm. How do you position yourself against your competitors now? Mm-hmm. And then using that kind of same philosophy to differentiate yourself from a robot.
Yeah. And then letting people know that, hey, we just like we do now, there's a lot of AI tools that we use internally to help create efficiencies and data scrape and compile reports and things like that. But, and even in some cases, bounce ideas off of.
Oh yeah.
It's great for that. But I think putting a bunch of data into it and then asking it to know all those things right off top, I mean, it's going to take some time. I mean, we're just not there. I think 27 is ambitious.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to end up taking a little bit longer than that, even though we have, in the last couple of years, have grown by leaps and bounds in that arena. I think, and in some fashion, you're still going to have humans involved somewhere. But I think the more that agencies can lean into that, what you just said, and then also build some of those practices into what they're doing, then that to me is the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's scalability right there.
Yeah. So why should brands continue to heavily invest in and prioritize social?
When social first emerged, I think a lot of people were blown away. And I think it had a moment. And I think there are some people that think that the moment is over. And now there's going to be this new channel or this new kind of way that we converse with one another. But what I would say is that social has established itself as the channel where culture, conversation, and commerce all now happen. Whether you are scrolling through TikTok and you see a makeup product that you really like, you can buy it right there. You can find a niche on Reddit that speaks to a really specific hobby that you may have. And then you can follow like-minded people on X that, talk about sports. It's a huge thing that I'm into. And that's primarily what I use X for. And so if all of those things are happening on social, your audience is involved in all of those. Why wouldn't you want to be in that conversation? Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of an opportunity to move more products, to reach more people, and to generate more ambassadors for your brand? And I'm a huge believer that the best days of social are still ahead of us. I don't think it will look exactly how Mark Zuckerberg thinks it will look, but I do think that these platforms will continue to innovate themselves. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, Instagram launched a repost feature. That's a huge change in how the platform has typically behaved. So these things are going to keep changing, and I think if you can be on the cutting edge of those things, you're going to provide a tremendous amount of value for your brand and be able to reach more and more people that you want to reach.
Yeah. So how is the role of community building evolving in today's fragmented social landscape?
Yeah, I think community building and community management for a long time on social has really been thought of responding to comments and checking your DMs and being able to, address issues quickly. But what I think it really looks like now is creating conversations and creating space for people to have those conversations. When I think about community, I think about an ongoing dialogue, right? People having an ongoing conversation with a variety of topics. And when I think a brand can create that space for its users or customers, that is a tremendously valuable thing. And I think community management and community building at its peak happens when there's a space that is owned by a brand and its customers are connecting with other customers instead of the brand. Because then you have individual ambassadors connecting, providing value with one another and saying, hey, this is the space where we will come to connect and to provide value to one another. Meanwhile, the brand is getting visibility and reach that it wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's developing an association with those consumers to say, hey, I've created this space for you and I've created value for you to be here. Now, if this conversation can happen here, then that is top of mind recall. It's an affinity for the brand and it's trust that I really struggle to find another marketing channel where that happens like it does on social.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. It's funny. We go back to the KFC example. I think that, I don't know about you guys, but when I go on IG or TikTok, one of the first places I run are the comments. It's almost like they're their own mini Reddits where you can communicate with other people and have fun and connect with people, talk about the brand, talk about some fun reel they posted. And brands, while it seems like it's not produced that way, the best brands know how to produce it that way, to create that community for people to come and have those conversations. And a lot of times, the thing I think about often is if, people are going to connect that way inherently, right? The people want that connection with other people. They want to know that, oh, so-and-so thinks this is funny too. That's why it's so funny to see another celeb pop in the comments and you see like thousands of likes because people are like, oh man, they feel the same way I do. They like cats too, right?
Yeah.
Or, babies getting hurt or something. Not that I want to see babies getting hurt, but it's always funny stuff, right? But I think, we create that connection. And I think when brands do the best they can to create that space, just like you said, that's when the magic can really happen. And not only are they looking for the next thing you're going to post, they're looking forward to having connection with other people that feel that way about the brand and the things that you're interested in as well. And that's where real community happens. And that's authentic connection. That's what you're doing. You're creating an authentic community. And that's what I think we're moving to is we're moving away from the era, not that we're moving away from the era of it, but we're moving away from the era of, kind of shifting away from the era of followers and likes to communities.
Yeah. What are quality metrics for your brand, and how do you quantify the value of those?
Yeah.
That's huge.
And I think one of the tough things, man, is the brand awareness versus ROI part. That's something we don't have on here specifically, but I wanted to get your thoughts on, because you and I have talked about this a little bit. Raul and I have talked about it too. Is when a brand comes to you and needs to understand they have a budget, right? And you want to be a good steward of their dollars, right, of their media dollars. But a piece of that has to be peeled off for brand awareness and brand connection. Because at the end of the day, if you're asking somebody, like you said, the AI slop that's just asking you to buy before it's ever made any kind of connection with you, I buy from brands that I like and that value the same things I do. And I think especially we've seen that mostly with Gen Z, with this new the youngest gen. They want to connect with brands that care about the stuff they care about.
Yep.
It's like if it's not doing good for the world, I'm not buying it. My daughter buys upcycled clothes because she doesn't want to buy new stuff because she feels like it's bad for the earth. Like she feels like textiles being produced is bad for the earth. So she won't do it. So she thrifts. And I've seen a lot of kids do that. She's got a whole group of friends that do the same thing that she does. They want to connect with brands that care about those kinds of things. And the only way that you can create that kind of affinity is by having a community that is focused on those kinds of things and creating the space for them to come together.
Yeah. I mean, I think brand awareness and impressions, reach, however you want to quantify brand awareness, is probably one of the most misunderstood metrics on social.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people will look at brand awareness and they think, oh, well, if I want that, I can just pick up a megaphone, start walking down the street in Manhattan, and everyone will hear about my brand, and I'll have that brand awareness. No, brand awareness is truly centered around brand equity. And if you are a social media manager that is trying to generate additional impressions and you're just throwing your brand out there to the wind and hoping for the best, you're not going to have great results.
Yeah.
But good brand awareness and cultivating that good brand awareness happens when you understand your audience, you understand your value, and you understand how you're going to get your audience to care about that value. That's brand awareness that leads to brand equity, which again will turn those impressions and that reach into ambassadors of your brand. And so I really think it's about understanding what you're trying to achieve and then providing value to your audience every step of the way.
Okay. Man, that's good. Yeah, we can't go too deep into that because we can't give them all the secret sauce, man. We got to keep something for them to want to call us about. So that's actually a really good segue. Do you think that solely almost, I would say it's got to be at the core of everything for social media managers and aspiring social media managers? What do you think the skills and mindsets are that are going to help them thrive with the companies they work for, themselves, their own brand, because that's a part of things now too, and brands that they're doing work for in 2025 and beyond? What do you feel are the most, maybe like the top 2 or 3 most important things that they need to know and possess to be able to succeed in this space?
I'll give you 3 things. The first, I'll give you a hard skill, which is just spend as much time as you can learning about how to interpret and then apply data.
Yeah.
Find a good content management system and then live in it. Find every single way possible that you can utilize to extract data, break down data, quantify data, identify trends in that data, and then be able to apply it to your content on an ongoing basis. Another layer on that, I would say, is being able to explain that in a way that's digestible to somebody that isn't in the platform like you are.
It's very black box still, man, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's where that conversation of brand awareness really falls apart.
Yeah.
Because if I'm talking to somebody who isn't living on social or in a CMS and I'm saying, hey, you got 1 million impressions this month. Okay, what does that mean? I didn't have 1 million people come to my tire shop. You're misleading them.
Yeah.
It's not being a trusted partner or a helpful resource to their business. So being able to kind of break it down in a way that's simplistic and digestible and translates to the client's business or your brand's business, I think makes you a tremendously valuable resource. And there's 2 soft skills because I actually think the soft skills in social are extremely important.
Yeah.
The first one I would say is hone creativity however works best for you. You and I are both big music fans and love the art of creating music.
Yeah.
That's a big way that I do it for myself. I also love to write, and so I do that frequently. But having a different medium to kind of channel your creativity gives you a little bit of a different perspective that you can bring to the platforms. It keeps you sharp.
Yeah.
It really does. And then the last thing I would say is don't try to be anything other than human on social. It really is that simple. If I go onto Instagram and I'm trying to talk as a brand differently than I would talk as I'm, having a conversation with you, it wouldn't land. So why would I do that? Being real and being authentic, I think, is what people are craving now more than ever. So live that out and do that whether you're representing yourself or you're representing a brand, because I think it's really attractive to people and gives them something that they want to stick around for.
Yeah. Man, that's fantastic, dude. I don't really know if there's anything else I can ask or say past that. I mean,
that was a mic drop moment right there.
Super solid answer, dude. Dude, Ryan, this has been fantastic, man.
Yeah,
thanks for coming
me.
on and talking with us, man. This has been really great. We're going to do this again, obviously. There's a lot more to come. We've got a ton of things we could have talked about.
Thanks for having me.
Ryan, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Hey, you guys know where to find us. Thanks for tapping in. Be sure to follow us across all our social networks at The Point Group. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe button. Get in the comments. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what else you want to know about. We're here, man. We've got a lot of experts in this space that are really great at what they do. Great thinkers, great minds, really great creative and strategic minds that want to share with you. So until next time, this was The Point. Well, I'll let you next time.